You're listening to Stellar Success, Leveling Up for Medical Pros with Dr. Tudor Francu. Join us as we explore how medical professionals can achieve stellar success in all areas of life. It's time to level up.
Hello, everyone. We're back at Stellar Success Podcast, and I have the pleasure of having a great guest today. Very interesting story and very interesting activities. Dr. Carl Bonnett. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me on, Tudor.
Absolutely. Dr. Bonnett, I'm having a very interesting first question to you, and I want to see how you're approaching it. Everything that we do every day in this profession is because we want to help people. But what is your actual why, and how do you see success in general for yourself?
My why is to derail suicide. So that's the whole reason I do it. I mean, it may not be the sexiest elevator speech, I guess, but it really is what it is. I mean, I did 20 years in the military, the Army National Guard. I got deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan several times, and the veteran suicide rate is what really started to kind of irritate me, to put it very mildly. And
A very big issue.
Yeah, it's huge. So, I was working for the VA a number of years ago and just, working with a lot of veterans with mental health issues, PTSD and whatnot, and just sort of seeing the ineffective treatments that are out there. So when I discovered psychedelic medicine and ketamine, that just really became my mission, is to get out there and do what I can to get this out there, as I've seen what it can do to derail the desire to take one's life.
Awesome. Awesome. Tell us a little bit about your story. How did you start? What was along the way, and where are you now?
Well, I guess I washed out as a photojournalist. My undergraduate degree was photojournalism, and I decided to go into medicine, got kind of burned out on the American media, and eventually went into emergency medicine. I decided I want to be an ER doc, and it got really, like I said, I joined the military, but then 9/11, the attacks on 9/11 happened when I was an intern, and that pretty much just kind of changed my whole paradigm. Prior to that, I was just planning on doing a few years in the military, to buff up my resume, and I just want to get out. But then, man, when that happened, I got to be honest, I got pissed off, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna sign up for loan repayment, whatever. I got super motivated for Homeland Security, and just, being in the Army Guard, the National Guard was a huge part of my identity. Like I said, I did several deployments, and on the civilian side, I was super active in disaster preparedness. So that was which is kind of funny. I was as far away from a psychedelic doctor as you could be at the time. I was a knuckle dragging Army guy, and just all about Homeland Security. But then, towards the end of my military career is when I kind of, started having that realization of, kind of what I wanted to do. I suppose the precipitant for that, though, is, in 2007, I was deployed with an infantry unit, and we're in Afghanistan, kind of down on the Afghan-Pakistan border. And long story short, basically, I survived death twice in one day. We got ambushed by the Pakistanis, actually, and then survived that experience. And then later, I had an artillery shell land right next to our truck that failed to detonate. It was a dud. So had it detonated, I would have been kind of the end of my story right then and there. But so anyway, on that day, which was in 2007, I felt like I was saved, right? And there was some purpose that I had, and at the time I didn't really know what it was. And then fast forward to 2013. I was working at the Denver VA at the time in the emergency department, and a lady brought her husband in. Her husband is a former Marine who had been deployed, has seen extensive combat experience, and she was just crying and carrying on, saying just like he's not the man I knew, right? He's a zombie. I want you to give me back the man that I knew. And that's when I was just like, man, this is so frustrating. And the treatments that are out there, and like, what are we gonna do? Because these are the people, the 22 a day of the veterans who take their lives. And the nurse who was working with me that day was a guy named Rob Conrad. He's a buddy of mine. He was a former Army Ranger, and he gave me the paper that the Army actually published in 2008, showing that burned service members who received ketamine had far less PTSD symptoms than those who got other treatments like fentanyl and whatnot. And that kind of blew my mind. I was just like, oh my gosh. I mean, because I've been using ketamine, of course, for years as an emergency physician, as an anesthetic, but the thought that this could somehow treat PTSD, it just kind of clicked, right? So that was like this whole 20 plus year history of emergency medicine, military, the Homeland Security, and like just all gung ho for this. And then to discover there could be something to this, it really clicked. And that's what got me going down the path of psychedelic medicine in 2015 when I opened my first clinic down in San Antonio.
Interesting. Your first clinic.
Yeah.
What about the second one?
Yeah, well, so I started this company. It's called Clarisona, and we are a ketamine-based behavioral health organization. So it started as a ketamine clinic, right? I mean, I was an ER doc. I started a clinic down in San Antonio. We just gave ketamine. People went to go see their own mental health professional. We eventually hired mental health professionals. So now we're a behavioral health company. But I started that down in 2015. I was living down in San Antonio for a few years. There was a job opportunity down there that was pretty desirable. And then I opened a clinic up in Austin in 2017, and then decided to move back to Denver. So I'm back in the Denver area now, and that's when we opened. Over the course of the next few years, I've opened 3 more clinics here in the Denver metro area, and soon to have our 6th coming in December. So stay tuned for that.
That's
Yeah,
great. Awesome.
yeah, yeah.
So it's very interesting to me. I'm an anesthesiologist by formation, and ketamine was considered many, many years ago, like you said, a very powerful anesthetic with a lot of good effects and a lot of side effects. It's interesting to me how this thing evolved over the years, and now it proved to be a very good treatment, as you said, for people with PTSD. What do you see in patients that you treat to have as an argument for ketamine? What's the most important thing that happens to them?
You mean as a result of getting
Yes.
ketamine, or what would make
Yeah.
them? It's a change in their mental paradigm, right? So you get this paradigm. I think when you suffer, I'll back up a second. Like my belief after doing this for a few years now, after a little bit over 9 years within the mental health field, is that psychological trauma, I believe, creates an existential crisis in a patient. So it creates 2 existential questions. One is, well, why did that happen? Okay. And then number 2 is, well, how do I move on from here? And the problem is that those questions are not easy to answer, right? I mean, that Marine who I took care of that started me on this pathway, his story was that his best friend from high school, who he grew up with, right? They did all the things together, drank their first beer together, et cetera, et cetera. He went to Fallujah with him, and he watched his best friend take an RPG round through his chest, and all the patient, his friend's body parts and whatever, and what knocked him to the ground, right? So he's left with this existential crisis. Got the existential question of why did that happen? How do I move on from here? Well, the question is, well, what do you say? What do
Yeah,
you
yeah.
say
I
to
mean, those
people?
things definitely stay with you for the whole
Oh
life.
yeah. Yeah, there's no answer. So that's where I think that leveraging a non-ordinary state of consciousness, which ketamine is the one agent that is currently legal, right? I mean, there's a lot of promise for MDMA, psilocybin, LSD, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, those are all Schedule 1 so far. Though that's what they do. Is when you leverage a non-ordinary state of consciousness, that's what changes the patient's perspective, changes their mental paradigm, as opposed to just trying to tweak their serotonin reuptake or whatever with conventional
Right.
therapies or whatnot. So hope that answers your
Interesting.
question. Yeah.
Is there any protocol on the business side, and talking about the how you open a clinic? Is there any protocol you need to follow in terms of like state regulations or dosage concentrations and limits and all these things that you need to follow?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, to be honest with you, it's somewhat the Wild West a little bit, right? I mean, there's you can kind of just open a clinic. Historically, you just open a clinic and do it, right? As long as you look to see if there's any rules that the medical board for the state you're opening it in has anything that applies to that.
It's yeah, because to me, it's a very interesting thing that you're doing as a doctor, right? You're trying to help patients like that, but you also use a controlled substance to do it. And
Yeah.
it's funny to me that, for example, propofol is not a controlled substance, but ketamine is. And from the anesthetic point of view, it's so much like different that in those terms of effects. But yeah, how do you manage all these things with state approvals and inspections?
That's a good question, right? Because I mean, because one thing is each of our clinics has a DEA registration, right?
Mhm.
So we've been in contact with the DEA. We do all the appropriate, following their regulations. Everything has to be behind 2 locked doors, et cetera, et cetera. So we have limitations as to who has a code to the safe. We have video cameras on all the safe. So I mean, that's kind of in some ways number one. We want to make sure we play nice with the feds. So we've done everything we can to abide by the DEA regulations with regards to the ordering, the storage, distribution, et cetera. We carry, keep a log where we can account for every milligram of ketamine that's been given to
Yeah.
every patient. Yeah, all that kind of stuff. And that actually ends up taking care of a lot of it, right? Because it's the whole because if you take away the controlled substance for a standpoint for a moment, and you just have a medical practice that sees patients and whatnot, well, that's a little bit easier in the
Mhm.
sense, okay, you just have to have a safe location, have an electronic medical record system, the usual stuff that people have to have access to the medical records, have informed consent, et cetera, et cetera. So following those regulations that make the state happy. are I guess, relatively straightforward. The addition of the controlled substance, of course, does complicate things a
Yeah,
little bit. But
I see.
yeah,
Very, very interesting. I'm gonna switch gears a little bit here and go from the medical side to the business side of it. And you are now an entrepreneur. You're a business owner. You have a couple of clinics in the country. I want to ask you, how did you start changing your mindset from being a doctor and taking care of patients to thinking about opening up a business? You were not trained in this. No
no,
medical school teaches us about this stuff. How did you
right.
make that transition?
Um, I think for me, it started with a mission, right? My team would kind of jokes that my original business plan was to throw the parachute out of the plane, jump after it, and hope to catch it on the way down. And so and it's I guess it's somewhat humorous to talk about that. But the bottom line is, at first, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just give this a try. I want to do it. I mean, I'm getting frustrated with what's happening to veterans. Silly me. I thought that opening a clinic, for sure, the VA would see that this saves lives. The Department of Defense would see that this saves lives, because again, they're the ones who published the paper in 2008. It was the Army, right? But yeah, so I guess I just sort of did it, and then the thing what I started to see, because originally it was very, very small. I was making pretty good money in San Antonio, so it really wasn't too much of an effort. I had just a little 12 by 20 foot clinic, a tiny little room in this like strip mall, and but then when I started to see from patients, that the thing that fascinated me is that it did not decrease the desire to take your life. It changed your whole paradigm, where that was not even one of the options on the table. And
That's
that's
a
pretty
great,
raw.
that's a great win.
That's pretty rock and roll. So at that
Yep.
point, I was just like, you know what? I don't know, man. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna figure this out. And I started reading a lot more books about business and whatnot. And then also to try to bring on some people who had skills that I don't necessarily possess. I mean, if anyone on my staff watches this podcast, they're gonna agree that I don't particularly care for spreadsheets. I'm not a huge numbers guy. I love doing more big picture stuff
Yeah.
and whatnot. But
Well, let's dive a little bit into this mindset of being an entrepreneur and a business owner. Do you follow a certain protocol to delegate your tasks to other people? What are you looking for, giving away from your daily routines in business?
um, well, right now, I look to give away. My dad used to have a saying. He's like, focus on what you're good at and outsource the rest. Right. So I think like what I'm good at is being an evangelist, talking about psychedelic medicine, right? Because a lot of people are just like, this is crazy. What are you talking about? You're going to alter
Yeah.
somebody's mind? I mean, come on, Nancy Reagan told us that's not good. We know that, right? And just like, so I'm good at that. I think I'm good at spreading the word, talking about it, talking to patients, and, doing doctor kind of stuff. I run my own social media channels where I'm putting out videos and whatnot. So like I said, like, numbers stuff, forecasting, that kind of thing. I mean, I definitely delegate that to the team. I mean, I get involved from a big picture standpoint, just in broad brushstrokes. But like we've got some Andrew's our financial guy working. Like he's great. Max is our COO, and Seishu is our new CEO. And so we got great people running that side of it. Anything operational, as far as like making sure the clinics are staffed, that we have medics, all that kind of stuff. I mean honestly, that kind of stuff also makes my eyes gloss over. So I mean, we got wonderful operations director named Amber, who's kicking butt. If she watches this show, strong work, Amber. She absorbs a lot of headaches I don't have to. Early on, though, which may be the real answer to your question, that it was tougher, right? When we were a smaller company, I had to wear a lot of those hats and try to just and it can be tough. You just have to kind of, I guess, sort of do it. I suppose just belly up to the bar and make it happen.
Well, this is one thing that I want to kind of stop and pause a little bit. The fact that you transition from being a medical doctor to being a business owner in medicine, but also you transition your mindset from helping one patient at a time to help multiple patients at a time in your clinics. So I want to see how your power of taking risks and getting out of your comfort zone helped you achieve what you wanted. Was that hard, or was a progress over time?
Um, for me, it was not necessarily hard, because, like I said, in March of 2007, I should have died. I should have died twice. So every day that I'm alive, I feel like I'm on borrowed time. I tell my friends, tell my family, if I die tomorrow, like, hey man, have a beer in my honor. It's like I kind of outlived my expiration date. I should have died in Afghanistan twice, like within a course of 2 hours. So as far as taking a risk, I sort of feel honestly that I'm like perfectly positioned to do this. right? Because I mean, I remember when I was living in San Antonio, I asked a whole bunch of other ER docs I was working with, like, hey, do you want to invest with me? Like, we could do this, we could save lives, we could do stuff. And they're all like, no way, man, you're going to lose your medical license. You are crazy. There is no way. And I was just like, dude, I don't give a damn. I am, because at the time, I put on my vision board. I put on, one of the things I put on there is that I will change the veteran suicide rate, right? And I don't mean locally. I mean nationally. Like when you look at 22 veterans a day, my goal, my vision, when I talk about what I want to do, is I want that number to drop, largely because of my efforts, right? So I put on my vision board that I want to have, a clinic outside every major military installation in the country, and we are going to do this. And I guess it's just the way I am. Is I get this mindset of just like, you know what, I'm going to execute on this mission. I know what I want to do. And man, what else are we going to do it?
That's great. I like this story. What you focus on grows, and I like the fact that you wanted to do something really bad and that came alive. But also success leaves clues, right? So I want to see how you structure your day to be this successful as you are right now. Are there any skills or habits that you're having in your daily routines? How is a day in Dr. Bonnett life looks like right now?
Um, Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of it is like affirmations, and this kind of gets into like some of the law of attraction stuff, which I'll put a caveat on that. Like, so if people are familiar with the law of attraction society, of what you focus on, what you think about is what you achieve, largely made popular by the movie The Secret, which is actually just a rehash of a lot of stuff from like Think and Grow Rich and the power of positive thinking, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't believe that there's some magical power that will, if I just dream about, oh, I want to have a Porsche on my driveway, it's not going to magically appear, right? That doesn't happen. But if you have that attitude of I'm going to do this, and then you take you take concerted effort to do it, and that's where a lot of people forget, is that part is the effort. So that's a big part of it. Like I get up, I get up and do a lot of affirmation work. I have a gratitude journal, so I start with writing out like, what am I grateful for, and all this kind of stuff, and then I'll spend time looking at my vision board, which is over my wall here, like looking at what I want to achieve. I mean, I've got the pictures of other cities that we want to open clinics in. I get kind of mentally fired up for that. I do that. I try to work out in the morning, whether it be just on my exercise bike or whatever on my garage, or go to the gym. Um, so I think a lot of it's mental. I mean, it is completely mental. I mean, I can't remember. I mean, I think Muhammad Ali has a version of this quote. Maybe Henry Ford does well. The idea that, like, if the mind can achieve it, if the mind can believe it, you can achieve it.
Mhm.
And you
Yes.
you have to internalize that. So a big part of my day is that, is this idea of just like, okay, what do I want to achieve? What do I want to accomplish? And like, and man, you're going to meet 1,000 people who are just like trying to derail that. And that's what it discovers. A lot of people don't necessarily want you to accomplish what your dream is, But that's a big part of it. I mean, there's certain logistical things like walk my dog and whatever. But I think that's the biggest thing I would say is attitude, man. Just this mental attitude where like you're going to do it.
Yeah, that's so true. Also, you said something very important, the people that you surround yourself with and the mindset of your peers around you, counts a lot because they can lift you up or they can put you down. Is there any uh, circle you belong to, or are you looking for some kind of specific rooms that you want to be in?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at I think it was a book, Think and Grow Rich, where they talk about a mastermind group. I don't know that I have a formal mastermind group per se, but I definitely have a group of friends, a group of people who I try to meet with on a regular basis. Who, we build each other up. That we're on the same attitude. I don't have very many friends who have no ambition. Right? It's just who are just like, yeah, just because I am not the kind of person who wants to put the square peg in the square hole 40 hours a week, hit Friday afternoon, crack a beer, go start cooking, brats at the barbecue, and then watch college football on Saturday, professional football Sunday, and redo the whole. That's not me. All right. I mean, if that's you, great. I doubt very many people I doubt very many of those people are watching this particular podcast or video,
Right.
but that's not me. So yeah, so I surround myself with people who are making things happen. I got a friend who's a captain in the Navy, which is six. I mean, he's a mover and a shaker. We meet once a month for breakfast, and again, he's doing nothing similar to me. I mean, his job is to protect us from overseas threats. But again, we bounce ideas off of each other, and then and things that he brings to the table are awesome, and perspectives and whatnot. And again, I like to just sort of like surround myself with people who are going places, making things happen, and who have a similar attitude of I don't really care what other people think of me. right? Constructive criticism, great, man. You want to give me some constructive criticism, awesome. But if you want to give me anything destructive, I'm sorry, I don't have, I ain't got time for that. So
That's true. Yeah.
yeah.
Good point. Good point. Um, I also want to kind of shift a little bit now towards the financial aspect of your journey. And, a lot of people in our profession, doctors and healthcare workers, have this notion that, we need to work for money.
Mhm.
And when we can't work anymore, retiring or getting sick or whatever happens in our life, we don't have any other source of income. How do you see those passive income streams in your life right now? And are there any steps to develop them? Obviously, you have a business that's, growing and scaling up, but what is the importance of passive income stream in your life?
Well, I mean, I think passive income streams, do a couple things. One, they allow for self-actualization. All right. If you are always trading time for money, then you're kind of just you're a gerbil on the gerbil wheel, right? Like, I'm going to work my 40. That's what it is in the ER doc, right? I mean, you can make a lot of money. Like if someone hears what I'd make as an hourly rate as an emergency physician, it's a high number, right? A lot of people, oh man, I'd love to have that. And that's great. I'm blessed, right? But you are there and you're working, and if you want to make more, you have to go and work more and whatnot. So it kind of makes it challenging to lead a self-actualized life. In that regards, gosh, I can't remember who said it. The whole idea that, like, if you're always trading time for money, then you're kind of
You
making
work
someone
until you die.
switch. Yeah, you work until you die.
Yeah.
So there's that component of it, and then I think it also it's I don't know. I think it's a little easier, should I say, to accomplish a goal that's mission driven if you are an entrepreneur and you're doing something that has passive streams of income, right? So for me personally. Uh, I don't think of it as, oh, how am I going to have passive income to then have sailboat money, right? That the idea of like I'm gonna be on a sailboat, just check my bank account and money's pouring into it. Who knows? Maybe that'll be, I don't know. That might be a result of what I do. I mean, perhaps we'll grow and grow and grow and sell for a lot of money. I don't know, but that's not how I work. Like I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek's "Start with Why" video that many of your viewers are probably seeing. But the idea is, if you say my goal is to make a lot of money, you've got it all wrong. My goal is to change the veteran suicide rate and is to decrease the rate of suicide in this country. Right? That's it. And it just so works out that passive income, like if I grow to the point where I have 50 clinics or whatever, like, yeah, obviously I can't work at all 50 of those clinics. To say it, I mean, to say it's passive is a little bit of a misnomer because, like, for instance, I mean, I put in a lot of hours, right? I'm gonna be working all day Saturday, all day Sunday this weekend when most of my employees are home, chilling out and whatever. So yes, I'm not in the office, I'm not in the clinic. Yes, I can leave in the middle of the day and go get my oil changed, but I'll probably be up till 1 o'clock in the morning tonight producing a couple of videos to put on my Instagram channel.
I see. Yeah.
But
Yeah. You work, on your business, not in your business, right?
right,
That's the advantage of having something like this and a system that creates some kind of, passive income, you said, but it's also reaching your goals. Um, Now, you are bound to scale this business up like you did before, so far. So what are your goals next? What do you want to achieve? How big you want to go from now?
um, I guess that's a good question. Yeah, that's a good question, right? Because I mean, like, I want to change my goal, and some people might think, "Oh, you're crazy. You'll never do that." My goal is to change the suicide rate in the United States, right? So I don't know, how do you do that? Do you have 100 clinics across the country? Do you have 500 clinics across the country? Right now we have five. We're about to open our sixth. That's not enough. That's not going to change the rate. So again, my goal is to change the suicide rate. Now, what does that mean? Yeah, that definitely involves opening a lot more clinics. So we want to open more clinics. We want to have a much bigger reach. Um, you know, will it be? And again, the thing is, like, am I? The thing with dreams, I forget who said that. It's, if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. And I
Yes,
apologize, I can't remember who said the quote, but and that's true. So I mean, yeah, I have this dream of changing the suicide rate in the country. Like, am I going to do that? Is Carl Bonnett going to do that? I don't know. I mean, I guess if you ask Jeff Bezos, like, you could have made fun of him before he did
I
Amazon.
know
But I mean,
everybody thought he's crazy when he started saying what he's gonna do.
yeah, like, are you really going to do that, buddy? No way. Who's going to buy a toaster off of the internet? But yes, I don't know. I don't know where to go. But again, yes, the goal is to grow, right? It is to scale. It is to grow. I mean, is that going to be 30 clinics, 40 clinics, 50 clinics? I don't know for sure, but that's kind of the ballpark that I'm shooting for right now is to
Yeah.
be in multiple states, to get out there to make things happen. And you know,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the important things you said previously is that it's what you do every day to reach your goal. It's not, you don't race to the level of your goals. You fall at the level of your systems. So
mhm.
what you do every day to reach that goal, that's what matters at the end.
Yeah, yeah.
It's also interesting when you look back when you started this journey. Is there anything you would have changed? Like if somebody wants to do the same thing that you're doing right now, what advice would you have for that person?
Um, to trust yourself. I think one thing that I always a failing that I have is that I always feel that there's somebody out there who knows something more about something than I do, right? There's an expert. And that's the thing that I've discovered in the business world is that if you look at like a Venn diagram, for instance, if you look at the number of people who claim that they know something about business or marketing or whatever, it's about this big. The number of people who actually do know anything about what they're talking about is like that big, right? I talked to so many people who are like, oh man, I know about business. You just need to hire me. I'll triple your income. I'll do blah, blah, you'll have so many leads, you don't know what to do with it. I mean, a lot of them just don't know what they're talking about, man. So I think the thing I would have, it would have put a lot more faith in myself. Honestly, a lot of the principles out there can be obtained. There's certain basic books, man. Go read Sun Tzu's Art of War, right? That is the book that really defines all the underpinning of a lot of my philosophy and into the way I operate. So read some things like that. Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, et cetera. There's some basic principles out there that you can obtain, and then trust yourself, trust your gut, and kind of be wary of individuals who claim that that they're some sort of expert and I'm going to help you out. I mean, they're parasites, right? They are people who come along and just say they'll take your money, and they're happy to like participate in all the upside, but they won't they won't share any of the downside.
Yeah, totally, totally true. It's very interesting how to, like you said, find the right people to help you achieve your goals, but in the same time, educate yourself financially and, business wise. And you mentioned a couple of books that you're recommending. Is there anything else you read, you listen to, podcasts, audiobooks, any books, any hints you can give?
From a marketing standpoint, I listen to about everything I can get my hands on from Gary Vaynerchuk. So I don't know if your readers of or your listeners have seen him. If you're offended by foul language, he is not the one to listen to. But I listen to a lot of his stuff. Simon Sinek, I listen to a lot of his stuff. Bob Proctor he's passed away now. So late Bob Proctor talks a lot about he focuses on the science of getting rich. And again, like you can substitute what you want to substitute. I mean, I'm not that necessarily that money focused. I want security. I want to be able to put food on my table and whatever. But I actually don't. I guess I don't like. I don't care if I drive a Porsche or whatever. That's honestly not my goal. I don't care if I have a house in Vail. But I am interested in success as defined by what I stated before. So yeah, Bob Proctor. I love his work a lot. Gosh. Um, like I said, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People was an amazing book. There's a lot of foundational stuff like that. So now I listen to different. I spend a lot of time on YouTube listening to various people, trying to listen to various podcasts. To see who I'm gonna give some time to and whatever. And honestly, I don't. There does come a point too. I can't remember who said this, but you can kind of listen to podcasts all day long and then get nothing done.
Yeah,
So there's a bit of a balance there. Like, I listen to some folks here and there, but ultimately I try to just get out there and just make it happen.
yeah, take action, right? Um, yes, I totally agree. A lot of people are in this like paralyzing phase of reading and educating and studying and restudying and analyzing and reanalyzing whatever they want to do and finally don't take action. And I remember when I started off years and years ago, it happened to me also with real estate. And, I read a lot of books about how to do it, how to start investing, what to do. And finally, I was like, you know what? Nobody's going to teach me unless I have to do this myself.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very powerful lesson that like you did too, right? You started those clinics out of the blue and look where you are now.
Yeah.
Do you see any change coming in the future of those type of treatments other than ketamine? Like, Do you see anything in the near future that's going to change the whole perspective of how we treat those
Oh,
people?
it is going to completely revolutionize the treatment of mental health, right? When because one thing, this is the thing that people don't realize yet, and once everyone realizes it, because the whole like product innovation curve, there's the pioneers and the early adopters and the early majority and whatnot. Like we're not even at the early majority yet, but when people realize that these psychedelic substance, which get rid of the word for a moment, right? I know it has a lot of baggage, psychedelic, whatever. Just leveraging a non-ordinary state of consciousness does not decrease the desire to take your life. It changes your perspective, so that's not even on the table, right? I mean, there's studies out there showing that ketamine can work for like over 70% of treatment-resistant depression, people who have failed everything. This has the ability. This is going to revolutionize, and people know this, right? It's going to explode in the next few years. I mean, all the other ones too, right? Psilocybin, ibogaine, et cetera, MDMA, and whatnot. Because it's like again, like once people understand, like for instance, like when Steve Jobs came up with the idea of like let's put a screen on a phone. From my understanding, the board of directors and people have said like you're crazy. Why would and people use a phone to make phone calls? They don't use it to look at videos or check out a podcast with some bald ER doctor turned into a psychedelic physician. You know, it revolutionized it. So yeah, man, there's gonna be some huge changes, which is super, super exciting.
Yeah, it's funny how, if you look back when you started this thing until now, I'm sure you've seen a lot of changes in the public perspective of how do you approach those kind of treatments. Do you
Yeah.
think it's a big change in public perception from
Yeah.
that point of view?
Yeah, it again because I mean we've been so this whole war on drugs and whatever we've been sort of brainwashed that any alteration of your state of consciousness is bad, right? And I tell people like, well, as you know, if you want to get your appendix out, you would like someone to alter your mind, right? You're
Right.
not taking my
I
appendix out
mean,
without anesthesia.
exactly. From that point of view, I can basically attest as an anesthesiologist that even to this day, the mechanism, the intrinsic mechanism of how anesthesia works on the brain are not very well known. And for that respect, using ketamine for treating all this depression people that are coming to you, it's a very innovative way, I would say, to approach depression treatment.
Yeah.
But the public perception is that we're doing something, you know, out of the blue with
Oh yeah.
no much research or not much proof they
Yeah.
work, and all these things. But I think there are a lot of studies out there to prove that. And I remember listening to Tim Ferriss that he had a couple of podcasts and blog posts about the whole psychedelic treatment in general, and I think it was very helpful to kind of change the public perception on that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to change. It's going to change in public perception, right? Because I mean, right now, and again, you look through all these innovations throughout history, right? When Alexander Graham Bell came up with this idea that hey, I can convert a person's voice into electrical impulses and transmit it across a wire, people thought he was crazy,
Yeah.
right? Why would you ever want to do that? Then, of course, that was the telephone, right? And like the TV when it came out, people are like, you know what, this is an interesting novelty, but no one's gonna ever want to watch this, But because the thing is, right now, the reality when I'm on the ground seeing this, what I get to see is not just the studies showing these numbers. What I get to see is the physician in Austin, Texas, who calls me up and says, Carl, 6 months ago, I would have never sent one of my patients to you. I think I thought you were crazy. I thought this is insane. But you know what? My daughter has been talking about nothing but suicide for 10 years, and she's been on the brink of taking her life for so long. We decided to go ahead and get her treated at your clinic. And right now, she does not remember why she wanted to take her life.
Yeah, that's
That does
amazing.
not come out in the studies, right? The studies show this, the studies show that. The studies actually show a lot of great work. And the first study was done by Yale in 2000. So we have 24 years of studies showing that ketamine can work for depression. But I guess I get to hear the stories, right? I get to hear the actual people saying, dude, my wife talked about nothing but suicide for years. And now like doesn't even cross her mind. So
Yeah,
that's what keeps me going, man. This is good stuff. And I get to like, actually hear the stories from the patients.
that's amazing. Carl, you're doing a great thing, and I hope everybody that's going to listen now will try to look more into this type of treatments and learn more and kind of spread the word, because there are a lot of people out there that can benefit from this. Especially, it's a disease, and there are things that the normal regular medicine cannot get ahead of right now.
Right.
So we obviously need to look into some kind of treatments that, we have to experiment. And I think this is one of them.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, it's we're on the forefront of it, so it's been cool.
So if people want to learn more about this domain and what you are doing, how they can get in touch with you?
Well, so as far as the company, Clarisona.com is the Clarisona, Clarisana, Clarisona.com is the company's website. I also have some personal social media channels where I get to explore psychedelic medicine in a little bit more depth and whatnot. So if you're on Instagram, you can look at Doc Bonnett _psychedelic, 2 N's, 2 T's in my last name, or on YouTube, it's just at Dr. Bonnett, and or you can connect with me on LinkedIn as well. So yeah, please do. I mean, I'd love to chat with y'all and love to hear other people's stories too, man. I'm not trying to claim I'm the expert on all this, so it's just so wonderful to hear back from other people, have this dialogue. So
yeah, that's great. I'm glad we had this conversation and you came on the show. Thank you very much, and I wish you good luck. And I'm gonna probably circle back with you in a year or so and see how you're doing, because I want to see those progress.
Hope so.
Growing.
Love to. Right on. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been great talking.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
That's a wrap on Stellar Success, Leveling Up for Medical Pros with Dr. Tudor Francu. Interested in joining us? Go to stellarsuccesspodcast.com /guest to apply. Stay stellar and level up.